I was praying this morning, and one of heaven's accountants keeps stats on things like this, informed me of the number of Africans. Let's say you had never come to America and stayed in Africa, which many have. The number of Africans who have been enslaved by other Africans or killed by other Africans. They never made it to America. They never had an opportunity to be a slave. They just stayed in Africa. And the number of them that have been killed. The number of Africans that have been raped. The number of them that have been enslaved in comparison to the number that were enslaved here during the antebellum period pales in comparison. Africa has a worse record of rape, slavery, murder on its own shores and continent than does North America. Come on now. Come on. For instance, remember Rwanda? Remember 1994? Remember Rwanda? Rwanda's a little old nation out from Uganda and Nigeria, up in the northeast segment of Africa. And one day, fighting broke out between two brothers, the Hutus and the Tutsis. Rwanda. We're talking about the amount of killings, rapes that black men have done to each other in Africa pales, that is to say, is far less than what happened here in America with the white man and the black man. The Hutus started killing the Tutsis, or one way or the other. 10,000 were killed in an hour. And a call was put through the Secretary of State to President Clinton that they're killing Africans in Rwanda. Do something. Call the United Nations. Clinton was asleep. He rolled over and went back to sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning. And by 6 o'clock in the morning in African time, 100,000 black children, men, women, have been killed by their brothers, the Hutus. A week went on before the United Nations could intervene, and by the time the United Nations was able to intervene and get a foothold, nearly 1 million Africans, women and children have been killed by other Africans. The slave master ain't never done nothing to y'all like that. He ain't never killed y'all like that. He ain't never persecuted you like that. The truth. Oh, I forgot to tell you. I'm sorry. Jesus said in John's Gospel, chapter 8, verse 32, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. If the people that have been killed on the continent of Africa, raped, sold as slaves, abused, was only the same amount that have been raped or sold as slaves or abused in America, then Africa would be a fun place. What about Idi Amin? Killing in Uganda. What about the wars of Chad? What about the wars down in Angola, on the west coast of Africa, just north of South Africa? What about the killings in Liberia, Niger? What about all the killings that have taken place? What about all the enslavement that's happened in Mali and Timbuktu? What about and it has gone on for years, and you say you're angry with the white man? You better be glad he brought you here, because you may have been killed in Angola, or in Uganda, or in Rwanda. So I think if we're going to talk about justice, we're going to talk about equality, then I think we need to first look at our own brothers and the number of people they have killed. And not just that. You can say, well, God let us suffer. Pastor Man, are you saying God let us suffer? Yeah! You know, several years ago, the television screens, the CBS and NBC News, and this was while cable news was developing, the television was filled with the famine of Ethiopia, the Biafras. And on your television screen at night, you would see black children with pot bellies, skin and bones, elongated heads, sitting there with flies over their mouth with nothing to eat, and dying by the hundreds of thousands in Ethiopia. God sat there and watched that too. He watched that too. He watched that. One thing I can say about the white man, nobody has ever claimed that they died of starvation by being in America. I say that about him. Nobody can ever say that the white man starved us to death. But God watched in Ethiopia. He's watching right now in Sudan. In Sudan, you talk about rapes, right, in America, and you're not willing to say to the white man, we hold no malice. We're going to cease our anger and release you. In Sudan, right this moment, in southern Sudan, because it was once all Sudan, the African princes and leaders and elders, black men, like the black men I want to talk to, because of a sickness that's in their minds, and to have control over their women, because they can't control them with their provisions. They are doing a performance, the surgical name of it I can't remember, but they cut off the girl's clitoris when she becomes menstrual. When she's able to bear children, they cut off her clitoris. Now the clitoris is a very sensitive area of a woman's anatomy. And they cut it off because without that, it's difficult for her to engage in the practice of sex, which gives the African man in his warped mind. We're talking the African man now, not the white man, but gives the African man in his warped mind the idea he can control his women because they can't enjoy sex. So it cuts it off. And it just happening in Sudan. It's happening in nearly every nation in Africa where the black man who you say have been ill-treated by the white man in America. I don't remember the white man ever cutting off no woman's clitoris, but that is just more of what we need to learn. But you've never been taught that. No one's ever told you that to have, and this is a practice every young girl, and they run away because they know their mothers tell them they're going to cut off your clitoris and your life will end because it cannot be replaced. And when I think about these damn fools over here in America now having a surgical procedure as a woman to try to grow a pair of basketball and a penis, I think how horrible that is. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. No, if you're going to talk about inhumanity to man, or man's inhumanity to man, don't start in America. Don't you start with slavery. You got to go back home to your own damn people in Africa, and you ain't seen no barbarism till you see what your own people have done. Rwanda was a very difficult time. If you don't know it, you need to read up on it. It was, there ain't never been a killing in America. There ain't never been a killing. You know, in the Civil War, with Pickett's Charge and Robert E. Lee, and Ulysses S. Grant, and Tecumseh Sherman, only 600,000, I would say only 600,000, that's not a lot, 600,000 men lost their lives in the Civil War over a period of 4 years. And in Rwanda, over a period of 1 month, 1 million men, women, and children were killed by their own brothers. There are twice as many as a 4-year Civil War, 1 month in a black nation, a black on black crime. So Chicago ain't got a damn thing on Rwanda, not a thing, when you come to terms with the truth. So I think it's important that we understand and we stand up and say, we're going to release the white man. I've done it. I don't harbor anything against him or the Jew. In fact, I respect him. And God has blessed him. God said he's going to bless him. I'm not against that. What I do want to say is that God has sent me here to cause the release of the curse. And I have to preach. How many people are going to help me get this message out? How many people are going to first go home? You know, maybe you said something to a school teacher when you were a child. Or maybe as a parent, you said something to a school teacher. Maybe you stole something out of your daddy's money when you were just a boy. You were young and you didn't know. You stole something from your father. You did it. Or maybe you lied on a family member. You did it. Now, should God punish you? Should the whole world be angry with you and demand reparations? Should God demand that you pay back what you stole from your father? Maybe there's a teacher that tried to help. Maybe there's a preacher that tried to help you. And he wanted to discipline you. And you said all he wants is my money. He wants to make me a fool. All he wants is my money. You tried your best to destroy him. Should you have to pay for that? And my friends, I'll tell you something. I said to you a few moments ago, just one thing that you've done, but you know there's a whole lot more than one thing that you've done that you can't even repay right now. You can't repair, you can't repay things that you've done, people you've abused. You can't repay for those abortions. You can't do it. You can't do it. We need to release the white man. That much we can do. And you know, if we release him, maybe God will release us from what we've done one to another. Perchance, I'm not putting any words in God's mouth, but maybe God will release the Hutus for killing 1 million Tutsis. I don't think so. Maybe God will release the Sudanese men who enslave young girls and cut off their clitoris. A couple of years ago in Nigeria, the Boka children, young girls, 400 were captured at one time, taken out of the camp in a school in Nigeria. And they came in swoops as black men, and they took all those beautiful young girls who had just started their menstrual up until 17 years of age. 400 of them, and they've not been heard from since. You know where they went? They went to wealthy Arabs as sex slaves, wealthy Russians, wealthy South Americans as sex slaves. Those young Nigerian girls have not been heard of since, captured by their own and sold as slaves. And you say you can't release the white man. You say that slavery in America, you've been fed years and years and years of lies, and I'm here to tell you the truth.